Hello, thank you for joining us on Cyber Social Hub for our webinar, Automated Incident Response. What are you waiting for? In this presentation, we're going to share some valuable insights into automated incident response and its role in assisting, fortifying, helping security operations center incident response teams with their incident response as well. And that we're also going to cover the challenges of traditional incident response and the value of automating many of those tasks. We'll explore the automation and the methodologies, tools, and best practices utilized by SOC analysts and incident responders to actively detect and neutralize cyber threats. By way of introduction, my name is Robert O'Leary. I'm a senior solutions architect here at Analyze. And to give you some background, I retired from the New Jersey State Police, where I was one of two detectives assigned to establish the first statewide technology crime investigation unit in the United States. When I spent the remainder of my career in that unit, and when I retired, I had the opportunity to serve as the director for the National Institute of Justice Electronic Crime Technology Center of Excellence. When the funding was cut for that, and it just made it a good opportunity for me to move into the private sector, I was lucky enough to be offered a job as Director of Professional Services for Incident Response and Digital Forensics at Access Data. I moved over to Nuix after Access Data, and I was head of investigations there. I came on board with Binalize roughly a year ago. So as you can tell, I've been in the field for quite some time and had the experience of both state, federal, as well as private sector background. As far as Binalize was established in 2018 to innovate and disrupt cyber incident response. It came to the United States just about 2 years ago, and I had been following it from the time that it came to the US and thought that it was a very intriguing product and a very novel capability. The core mission is to deliver incident response solutions that are lightning fast and easy to use. For some additional information about the company, it's headquartered in Estonia with offices in the United States, the United Kingdom, and Singapore. Today's discussions are going to be how automated cyber incident response is essential for real cybersecurity. But to give you some background, or basically set the bar, we're going to discuss what is automated cyber incident response. And it's the process of leveraging the alert or the triggers from a perimeter security product, such as an EDR, MDR, XDR, SIEM, or SOAR, and automatically initiate the process to collect and analyze artifacts that can point to unauthorized access, malware, vulnerabilities that could be exploited or could compromise the network. The process involves this process provides the IR teams and analysts with specific details and a threat score, threat level of the event in minutes, so that when they are assigned the task of researching or analyzing the alert or trigger, they'll actually have actionable information to pursue. Some of the current challenges: we all know that there are blocking and monitoring technologies, but they don't necessarily provide comprehensive cybersecurity, particularly in that area of investigating the incident, remediating the incident. What we look at is Binalize AIR, or automated incident response, bridges that gap from the detection to the investigation of the incident. Some of the challenges that incident response and SOC analysts face include difficulties acquiring evidence at speed and scale. And I've been in this situation where there may be multiple machines involved, and you have a very difficult time getting them in a timely manner to be able to conduct the investigation quickly. So that is a huge challenge that needs to be overcome. Additionally, the root cause analysis process can be extremely time consuming and, for that matter, resource consuming as far as human resources. Additionally, fragmented toolkits to collect, analyze, identify, analyze, assess, and remediate. Often these are separate products or separate solutions, and having them all in a single platform is extremely advantageous. Additionally, the increasing volume, the speed, and the sophistication of the attacks is often a major challenge for these teams. And then the lack of complete incident visibility to come to a concrete conclusion to the investigation can often be difficult, especially if you don't have access to all of the data. Another challenge is filtering out the noise and the fatigue from other security alerts. So understanding what's a legitimate threat versus a false positive or noise. Additionally, the shortage of experienced DFIR personnel often makes it difficult to staff teams to the caliber and the degree that SOC teams and companies want. Additionally, limited remote data acquisition capabilities and digital investigation capabilities are often other challenges that these teams are facing. To give you a visual and understand where the value comes in, I created a basically a graph that served as the basis of this particular view, and comparing from my experience the distinction between automated incident response and workflows versus traditional incident response workflows on the right. And you'll see that the time savings alone is incredibly valuable, because you're then able to utilize that staff to perform other tasks like proactive threat hunting to prevent the next event. Some of the history of the cybersecurity includes the first computer virus over 50 years ago, the advent and the adoption of antivirus software, mainstream antivirus in the 1990s, and next gen in 2000. And one of the reasons I find this particularly intriguing is I was the lead detective in the Melissa macro virus in 1999, March of 1999. And for those that aren't familiar with it, it was one of many of the viruses that hit in the late 90s, which basically explain why in 2000 the next generation of antivirus was released, because the proliferation of worms, Trojan virus, became very common in the late 90s. To give you an idea of the Melissa macro virus, it was a self-replicating Trojan worm virus that mailed itself to the first 50 people in the Microsoft Outlook contact list. And it only targeted Microsoft, but you can imagine that at the time, it was very popular. The email capability in Outlook was extremely popular. But if you think of the progression of this virus, it emailed itself to the first 50 people in your address book. So the first round ended up 2,500 machines were infected. The next round was 125,000. By the sixth iteration, it affected 16,625,000,000 machines. And if you think about it, global population in 1999 was only 6,089,000,000. So it was more than 2.5 times the population of the United States, of the population of the globe. So you can see where the damage in that particular type of virus can be overwhelming. It shut down email servers all over the world. And it was the first time that a virus writer was not only arrested and sentenced, he was sentenced to 20 months in federal prison because the FBI had taken over or adopted a case. He had also been fined 40,000, but the damages we assessed were over $80 million in 1999. So you can see, again, blocking and monitoring aren't necessarily a comprehensive cybersecurity strategy. The building an impenetrable fortress for your cybersecurity is no longer a realistic objective. Some of the reasons behind that are the increased volume, velocity, and sophistication of the malware and the threat actors, the exponential increase in data volume and data movement, particularly to the cloud or other repositories. Business agility and digitation has basically expanded the attack surface, provided a target-rich environment, so to speak. And then the increasingly challenging regulatory burden and risk and costs. To give you an idea of the average weekly cyber attacks per industry in 2022 versus 2023, you can see the growth in some of these areas where the attacks became significant, particularly in the communications sector, banking sector, utilities. So there is no sector of the society that isn't vulnerable to cyber attacks. Additionally, the threat to financial information, critical value data, and reputational risks are extremely high. The average total cost of a data breach is $4.45 million by day 227, which, according to the IBM cost of a data breach report of 2023, was the average dwell time. Once detected, a breach takes on average 26 days to investigate and 17 days for a resolution. And that's based on the IDC state of DFIR report. And then 83% of the critical infrastructure organizations suffered breaches in 2021. Now, again, there can be a variation of the impact of the breach, but 83% were affected. Additionally, automated cyber incident response will empower compliance with the SEC regulations. And as I'm sure all of you are aware, in 2023, the SEC regulations required that cybersecurity incidents were reported or disclosed within 4 days of determining that the incident was material, as well as defining the criteria used to determine that the incident was material. Additionally, they had to disclose the processes used to identify, assess, and manage material cybersecurity risks, and a description of the company's cybersecurity risk program, as well as assessors, consultants, third parties retained to assist, and then the policies and procedures to monitor, detect, identify, mitigate, and remediate those cybersecurity risks. Additionally, this is where they started to incorporate management, assigning responsibility, include right up to the board of directors oversight of the risks and management's role in assessing and managing those material cybersecurity risks. Automation is becoming increasingly vital to cybersecurity incident response. Some of the reasons, obviously, the justification, one is efficiency. Digital forensic processes, incident response processes can be time consuming and often involve data collection from many systems that have to be processed, analyzed, and reported. Automation obviously can dramatically speed up these processes. Scalability, the ability to grow as systems become more complex, as the volume of data becomes greater, the ability to scale. Obviously, automation is key to scalability. Consistency, as opposed to manual procedures. Consistency will eliminate some of the mistakes, oversights, skipped steps, anything that could happen in those manual steps, because automation is carried out the same way every time. Additionally, reducing human error falls right back into that category of automating those manual steps. to ensure, and let's face it, we all know that as the volume of incidents increase, as the number of alerts increase, mistakes can get made, steps can be skipped in the workflows. So we want to eliminate as much of that as possible, and automation is key to that. Additionally, 24/7 availability. Those alerts are kicked off, and the ability to initiate the collection of that data before a human gets involved can be invaluable in rapid resolution of the event. Handling those routine tasks, they can be repetitive, mundane, and boring, frankly, for your teams. Automating those allows those human analysts to focus their skills on the more complex tasks and the investigations. Standardization, again, automation can standardize procedures and document that all of the steps were taken. So it's very important to be able to document that, particularly for legal proceedings or investigations or reviews. The reason that these are also important is because that is exactly what Binalize Air has been developed to provide, that automated incident response capability. An intuitive dashboard that's easy to learn and easy to use, and that offers a powerful triage and cyber threat assessment capability are critical to cyber resilience. As you can see, it's multi-tenant, so that multiple departments or multiple organizations within an environment can be broken out into and monitored independently or across multiple views in the tabs, but you can only look at one organization at a time so that you don't have any cross compatibility or cross pollination of information. Additionally, easy to use, the ability to access the features very quickly and initiate those actions even manually with a minimum of clicks and interactions is critical. So you can see here, it gives the users the ability to acquire evidence or artifacts, acquire disk images, triage those machines, interact with the remote machine by opening a cross-platform shell in that. Additionally, you can timeline and compare the state of a machine at two different periods of time, so that if you start to see anomalous behavior, you're able to investigate it very quickly. Again, all of this automation makes your teams extremely more productive and efficient. Some of the things we look at is the assets that we on the environment, and adding new assets to the environment is extremely easy. You can see here the ability to deploy new. You can also deploy to a cloud account. You can perform all of these tasks that I've mentioned in an off-network capability in the event you can't be running the responder on that endpoint. Additionally, you can collect a disk image. This gives you a quick view of the easiest ways to deploy. You can see that we can deploy to Windows with multiple methods, including download the installer or MSI for a 32-bit or 64-bit machine. You can also do it leveraging the PowerShell command or a PowerShell script. You can push this out through either manually or using Active Directory or SCCM. And additionally, you can see that at the bottom there is a shareable link. But we can deploy to Windows platforms, Linux, Mac, Chrome, Chromebook, ESXi, and IBM AIX. But the key to each of these, as I had said, with multi-tenancy, it's important to recognize that each of these install capabilities include this embedded token. And this particular token is what ensures that whatever endpoint or asset the responder is deployed to from this organization, it can only talk to this organization. So it ensures the security and the alignment of the data and the triages and the collections back to the specific organization. Additionally, the lightning fast acquisition or triage You'll notice that you can perform these tasks on one or multiple machines. In this view, we could see that I've selected 4 different machines, and from here I can acquire artifacts from them. I could triage, I could perform whatever other tasks I needed to in these. The collections are based off of acquisition profiles. So you can see here in the Windows collection view, we have the option to select up to 178 artifacts. It's 21 artifacts in the system category alone. The RAM, the page file, sys, swap file, or hibernation file. You can see we can grab the event logs, process execution. So you have that ability to select those artifacts that from your experience and your training, you know would be relevant in the investigation that you're going to be performing. So whether this was automated or manual, you can select an acquisition profile that was pre-configured to grab those artifacts that would be of relevance to the investigation of the incident, and you can have those results typically less than 10 minutes. Additionally, you're able to not only collect those or acquire those artifacts, you can also perform the analysis on those artifacts as you're processing them, as you're collecting them. You have the ability to leverage the MITRE attack framework analyzers as well as the patented drone analyzers. And you see you turn those on and off granularly. Additionally, you have the ability to add keywords, and I'll show you that in just a minute. But here we can add a acquisition profile, and you can see the new, add a new, well, we've got a library full, and you can simply maintain your library as you see fit and have those custom artifact acquisition profiles pre-selected, pre-configured, and ready to go at any time. Additionally, a more recent feature is the ability to import keyword lists for specific types of incident investigations. In this case, I've leveraged Mimikatz and the keyword lists that might be relevant for those terms related to Mimikatz. Additionally, the integrations, we can leverage APIs. So you have that ability to leverage APIs in your utilization and add a new API token very quickly. Additionally, we can automate with webhooks. So these webhooks are used to integrate with your EDR, MDR, XDR, SIEM, or SOAR, so that when these perimeter detection tools kick off an alert, you can automate the collection of artifacts based on those alerts. And you can see here, we have the ability to select or create a new parser based on the type of EDR or perimeter detection tool that you're using. Currently, we have just about 24 webhooks for the common perimeter detection tools, and our development team can build these on request. Some of the other things you can do, obviously, is proactively scan your network for indicators of compromise or TTPs very quickly with our triage capability. In doing that, you can run against hundreds or even thousands of endpoints simultaneously to look for those threats on machines within your environment and identify them before they are exploited, particularly valuable in looking for advanced persistence threats that may have been embedded in other systems in the environment. So here you can see you can build YARA rules or select from a library of YARA rules. And in here, we've got the triage rules set up. And in this particular library, we have a couple dozen. But very quickly, you can build your own, create your own YARA Sigma OS query rule right within this product. You'll also notice that you have the option to upload rules that you're currently using or build a new one based on the patterns in the example rules that we've provided. So you can add them. Another option is leveraging a capability that was recently released within the last few versions, is our Frank AI based on our KB, our knowledge base, and our support database. So you can ask Frank AI You can see here I write a YAR rule to find Mimikatz, and very quickly the YAR rule is not only created, but you'll notice when we look at this, it not only looks for that specific criteria that I asked for, Mimikatz, it also looks for other characteristics known to be part of the Mimikatz exploits. And so you can see it's looking for the login passwords, the LSA dump additionally. So you can build these YAR rules very quickly, select them, and then run them across multiple endpoints, hundreds or thousands in your environment. You can also leverage the MITRE ATT&CK framework analyzers in this as well. Again, as I had said, the value in this automation is the results. And typically we see this automatic or automated artifact collection analysis results from Windows, Mac, and Linux in typically less than 10 minutes. So when your analyst is assigned to the alert to go investigate it, they could actually open Binalyze Air and start to see the results automatically. And if you look at the center pane in the lower section of this, you'll notice that there are 4 endpoints or assets in this particular case that have high alerts. The Win10002 machine, Richard Burton, John Cabot, and William Adams. One of the other values here is the ability to isolate those machines, so they can only talk back to your console. That gives you the ability to locate the malware, which would be in the findings, navigate directly to it, remediate it on the endpoint, and ensure that the endpoint is safe to restore or unisolate and put back on the network. Additionally, it gives you very valuable information in the findings. Here in this particular case, we'll stay with that Mimikatz theme. And in downloads, we've got 26 medium alerts in the downloads category alone. And if you look at that subpanel on the left, these are the artifacts that I had selected to collect in my acquisition profile that we looked at earlier. So I grabbed these. These were not only collected, but also analyzed and scored essentially under the finding type, gives me the score or the rating. So this is a medium threat. And when we look at this, we all know that Mimikatz is pretty common, but if I had a threat that I didn't recognize but had a medium or high score, I would want to be able to investigate that very quickly. And you'll notice here that you have a link to VirusTotal. So I have a couple of options. You can see that the hash is readily available. I could grab that hash, write it into a YAR rule, search my entire network to see if it exists anywhere else. Additionally, I could kick that right over to VirusTotal to see what it can report about me, about this particular threat. Now, in this case, it's Mimikatz, and we know that the community score is a -2, and there were 65 of 73 entities reporting what it is. You can see what those reporting entities were and what their findings on it were. So it gives you the ability to not only identify it very quickly, identify the threat, remediate it, but also incorporate these results into your reporting. Additionally, we have the capability of not only the collaboration in the investigation of the incident, but also in building the timeline and the report. In this particular case, multiple analysts, SOC analysts, or IR team members are able to compile the information about an incident and collaboratively and have all of their results. So in this particular case, I've got a phishing timeline, and we can see that the flags are identified. I can also look at the lower section of this view and see what the flagged items were. In this particular case, we see that it's a file named invoice.zip, and within that was an executable named invoice.exe, and it was in fact malware that was attached to a phishing email. So you have that ability. A common way to exploit a phishing attack or a phishing attack exploit would be to embed malware in something that would look innocuous, like an invoice that a individual was expecting. Additionally, we have the scores, and you can see very quickly they're color coded, but it shows us exactly what those scores are. what's relevant, what's dangerous, and what's rare. And we can identify that and again incorporate that into our results and our reporting. As I had mentioned earlier, we have the ability to interact with the assets in our environment, and interact is exactly what it sounds like. It's the interact feature allows us to interact with those remote machines to remediate and further investigate the state of that machine. One of the things that I love about this is we've got these built-in tools here, but we also have the ability with the put command to put other tools or scripts or anything that we might prefer to use and leverage those in these interact sessions. Additionally, I can find the malware if it's something I hadn't seen before, something I wanted to investigate further. I could use the get command and bring it into my sandbox for further analysis. One of the other things that's great about this is you get a complete record or audit trail of everything that was done. So in this particular case, I did a listing with the LS. I changed to the R O'Leary 1 directory. Again, I did another LS, and I did a get on the ntuser.dat file and wanted to bring that into my analysis machine for further granular analysis. Another great feature is the compare functionality. Compare quickly identifies changes, additions, and deletions on a machine at two different states in time, two different periods in time. So you can see, I can look at the differential analysis. In this particular case, I did it on a Dell machine roughly a year ago. It was initially I did a baseline on October 13th, and then 12 days later on October 25th, I did a comparison. And you'll notice that in that 12-day window, 39 items were added, 359 were changed, and 43 were deleted. So I can go through this very carefully and see under the changed category in the lower section, you can see that you can expand that and actually see what changed in that particular file. And here we can see that not only did the date and time change, but also the hash value changed. In the case of something like SolarWinds, we would, in the hotfix that was exploited or compromised, we would see where the change was, but also we would have the hash of the malware that we could then go and look for anywhere else in our environment to see if it was if there was advanced persistent threat in that it was hidden somewhere else in our environment for future exploitation again. So you have that ability very quickly to go and look at what's different in this machine. So once you baseline it and it begins to act anomalously in the future, you can go right to that machine and see what's changed from the point at which it was behaving as expected and what was modified in it. Additionally, Finalize Error gives you the ability to identify the insights, the metrics essentially for utilization within the tool, not only for individuals, but for the entire team. This can be extremely valuable in making a determination as to the value and optimization of not only your teams, but also the workflows that you're using. So in this particular case, you can see that there's 27 live cases, average is 22. How many are open, how many are closed, how many total cases were handled in the time period, the dwell time. Ideally, the dwell time is going to drop as your teams get more proficient in utilizing Finalize Error, as well as leveraging the features and capability so that they're able to close those cases much faster. Some of the other things we look at is, I had mentioned earlier, you have the ability to acquire or import disk images into your cases in Finalize Error. In this particular case, you have the File Explorer view that allows you to navigate the directory structure of disk images and look at the metadata, the text, and the hexadecimal views of the contents of those files, so you're able to more granularly investigate. So you can see the value in this product and the value of automated incident response versus traditional incident response is those improvements that we've seen. We can integrate with those perimeter detection tools, SIEM, SOAR, EDR, XDR, MDR, and automatically trigger those investigations and collections 24/7, so that when your people are assigned a matter to investigate or to review, they actually have results that they can begin to analyze, and they have a threat assessment, a triage, a verdict or a score in the degree of threat. Additionally, we can reduce fatigue and overload from cases and alerts that are manually reviewed, and you can have this running 24/7, so you don't necessarily need round-the-clock monitoring of those of the console. You can get alerts on when those were kicked off. You can schedule regular data acquisitions, so they can be performed immediately or in times of low network usage. So you can quickly identify false positives and increase the overall cyber resilience. And additionally, that patented compare feature to look for unknown breaches, focus on identifying persistence, and collect much less of that data. We know that roughly 20% of disk images are generally relevant in the course of the investigation. One of the other factors to keep in mind in this is the assessment of cybersecurity premiums, essentially, in having a solution that is so readily available, running 24/7, and decreasing the time frame in which the incident is investigated can be extremely valuable in minimizing cybersecurity claims, essentially. One of the things I invite you to do is take a look at our website and experience the Binalize Air for yourself in a free trial in one of our hosted environments. So you're able to use that, and we'll be happy to set you up with a free, full functionality trial environment so you can test it yourself. At this point, I'd like to open it up to question and answers. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free to enter them into the Q&A tab or the chat tab, either one, and we'll get to answering those as quickly as possible. Okay, Megan, if we don't have any other questions, I'll turn it back over to you. Oh, here we go. Great question. Forensic images done in the locally or in a cloud environment, either one. You can select your repositories, so you can either have them SMB in your environment to an SMB share. You can collect to a FTP site. You can also collect to Amazon S3 or Azure. So you have the flexibility to push your images or your collections, not only your artifact collections, but your disk images, to whichever environment is best suited for your use case. Good question, Erica. GCP is on the roadmap. It's we have it in our QA environment. We are testing it. I've tested it. Works great. I'm just not sure what release it's going to be slated for, but yes, GCP has been developed, and we're doing final testing before it's released to for general acceptance. No, we have a KB on the resources. It's actually not resource intensive. You don't need lots of RAM. However, you can collect, as I had shown you in the acquisition profile, you can collect the RAM hibernation swap file, your combination, whatever you want. But if you take a look at kb.binalize.com, you can see the recommended resources. Additionally, Binalize Air will run in the cloud or run on your own environment in a Ubuntu server, and we give you the commands to download the Docker container, which is all self-contained. So with each new release, you simply install the Docker container, and it installs the updated version.
Alrighty, I think that's it for questions. Thank you for a great presentation, Bob, and thank you everybody for attending today. We're going to go ahead and end the presentation here. If you have other questions for Bob, please feel free to reach out to him directly afterwards.
Eamon, I'll just bring up the KB page for single-tier deployment, and then the two-tier deployment, depending on your preference. But you can see that you don't necessarily need a great deal of RAM.
One last follow-up. I did see one more question come in. Let me bring it up on the screen for you.
Disk images are a full disk image, much like any of the other imaging tools. So you can create a disk image to the expert witness format, or the EO1, or DD. You can bring in virtual machines. Yes, the VMDKs, we just released support for them in about 2 versions ago. So you can you can import VMDKs into Binalize Air, much like a disk image. Well, I think that would conclude our webinar for today. I don't see any other questions. I'm happy to field them. My email address is there. If something comes up that you think of afterwards, by all means, shoot me an email, and I'm more than happy to answer your questions, set up a demo for you, a more in-depth demo with all the features and functionality.